Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Intersection Control Evaluation webinar about our new ICE process implementation. I'm going to first go over some meeting etiquette. You will have noticed that your mics are muted, your cameras are disabled. That's intentional. We expect a lot of people here today. If you have questions throughout the presentation, you can submit them in the chat window, or at the end, if you'd like to ask a verbal question, you can raise your hand. We will leave time at the end for questions, and we will address them as time allows. If there are any unanswered questions in the chat, I will either get back to you directly with an answer or put it together into the subsequent FAQ document. As we noted, the webinar is being recorded. All the three webinars are the same, and we will pick the best recording to post on our site after this. All right. So today we have 5 presenters. Mo Burr is going to open us up with a welcome, and then we're going to hand it over to FHWA. Millie Hayes is going to talk about why ICE is important. Hillary's going to talk about what is ICE. And then Jason's going to go over the memo at a high level, and I'm going to get into some details and information on upcoming trainings and additional resources. With that, Mo, do you want to open us up?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Amanda, thank you. Thank you for your leadership and your passion on this. It comes through very clearly. I want to welcome all of our districts that are in attendance, some of our partners in the local governments and the MPOs, some of our partners in the consultant industry as well. And of course, last but not least, our FHWA partners who are playing a huge and integral role in this process. And let me just kind of step back and talk globally first. As y'all know, optimizing our system, having a safe system for our transportation network is one of our goals at TxDOT. Not only that, safety is also one of Mark's top 4 priorities for FY24 and FY25. And so one of the things that we always want to look at is always reflect on where we are on certain areas, whether it's operations or development or safety. And this, some of you are aware of this, and some of you might not be aware, but 32%, believe it or not, about a third of all of our total fatal and injury crashes in Texas are intersection related. That's hard to believe, but that just tells you that intersections play a huge role in keeping our system safe. And in order for us to really get our goal of Vision Zero by 2050, that is a huge bite of the apple that we can take and we can have. Innovative intersections are proven to reduce fatalities by the reduction of conflict points. So that's something we definitely want to look at and something we want to embrace. So what's the definition of insanity, right? Doing something over and over again and expecting different results. So we can't keep doing the same thing with our designs and expect different results. Innovative intersections are a critical tool in our toolbox for reducing intersection-related fatalities and serious injuries. Roundabouts, for example, are proven to reduce fatalities by 90%. And our cuts by 70%. So how do we embrace this? How do we know what type of intersection we need to pick? How do we decide if it's valid or not? What options do we have? And the good news is we have an intersection control evaluation process, ICE, which help us identify the safest and best intersection options for your projects. And Jason mentions this, Mark mentions this, I mentioned this, every project is a safety project. So while safety is our chief concern and the ICE process incorporates other factors like operational performance and impacts, for example, right-of-way, environmental impacts, etc. This will be a wonderful tool and a wonderful process for us to start utilizing and embracing in our project development phases. So let me talk about some of the benefits of ICE and the ICE process. It will really enable us to implement safer and more balanced and more cost-effective solutions. It will make us give us consistent documentation to support transparency of decisions. Why did we pick this intersection? What are the results? So what did we evaluate? It'll give us increased awareness of innovative solutions and make us more transparent to the people we're accountable for, the taxpayers. It'll give us objective performance metrics for decision making before and after. So in summary, Texas ICE process is being established to ensure that intersection investments across all of our highways, whether on system or off system, are evaluated, selected, prioritized, and implemented with defensible benefits for safety and congestion relief. This is one of the 3 workshops that we're going to have over the next week or so. I'm really excited about this. I want to thank Amanda for her leadership, and I want to thank all of you for taking the time and making the time to be here today to embrace a new tool that really can help us achieve our goals and achieve one of Mark's highest priorities. So Amanda, thank you for the opportunity. I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mo, and thank you for laying the foundation for all of this is safety. With that, we're going to move over to Millie Hayes with FHWA Texas Division. Millie, you want to talk about why is ICE important?
Yes. Can you hear me and see me okay?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thanks, y'all. Good morning, everyone. And thanks for inviting our office to be here today. So I'm here on behalf of the FHWA Texas Division in Austin. And I'm here just to provide some context and some background on why ICE. So as Mo said earlier, according to TxDOT's 2022 Strategic Highway Safety Plan, 32% of our fatal and serious injuries are intersection related. So that's 1/3 of the crashes that are at intersections or related to an intersection. So just to give some numbers, that means 1,030 people were killed at crashes occurring at intersections in 2022. And I think it's really important that we're always precise about our numbers and that number of the 1,030 deaths at our intersections. So TxDOT, if you could advance the slide, please. So the thing I like about ICE and that the new memo that you'll have that Jason will speak to in a couple minutes is that ICE promotes consideration of the underutilized intersections. So we're talking our roundabouts, our restricted crossing U-turns, otherwise known as R-cuts, our diverging diamond intersections, and all of that reduces the number and severity of our conflict points. So this results in statistically significant reductions in fatal and serious injury crashes. So if you've ever heard me or my colleagues at Burgos or Rubaiyat Islam speak, you've probably heard us speak about the FHWA proven safety countermeasures. So roundabouts, R-cuts, and median U-turns are all one of those proven safety countermeasures. So I wanted to point that out, and that's part of why we're doing what we're doing. So lastly, I'll just say that 10% of all of the intersection deaths in the US occur in Texas. So your progress at TxDOT means progress not only for our Texas communities here and our families here, but also progress for the country in reducing deaths and serious injuries. So we're really happy to partner with TxDOT on this webinar series and all of the future trainings that Amanda will be highlighting shortly. So thanks for the opportunity to provide Texas Division remarks, and kudos to TxDOT for this huge step for ICE. And I'll now turn it back over to Amanda. Thanks.
All right, excellent. So next up, we have Hillary talking about what is ICE. You ready, Hillary?
Yes, thank you, Amanda. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be here with you. So ICE. So I know some of you have been a part of past, whether that be at conference presentations or perhaps workshops where you may have heard about intersection control evaluation. And really from a high level view, from a national perspective, ICE is data-driven, performance-based framework established to identify that optimal investment from a safety, from an operational, from an environmental, from a cost perspective, as we look at intersections and access control. So depending on where you are in the United States, that definition can be slightly different. And Amanda's going to go into more significant detail on the specifics of your new ICE memo in Texas. But again, data-driven, performance-based, right? So we're not just going to cherry pick one of the performance measures. We are going to look at all of our performance measures. And in some cases, we might weight those performance measures based on the context and the project itself. So what ICE does is it ensures intersections are evaluated, selected, and prioritized, and that these are, again, transparent and defensible as we go out to the public, to our partner agencies, and as well as just to ourselves as the transportation professionals. So it really is an advancement of what we've already been doing, and in some cases, we're just documenting it with this ICE memo and the process that is being adopted in Texas. So it really is a subset of performance-based design. So we really are looking at the performance of not only the individual intersection, but maybe the corridor and how that plays into the network itself. It does include an interchange ramp terminals. So there's a lot of opportunities for looking at the intersection design and control at interchange ramp terminals. I know back Federal Highways released our first proven safety countermeasures memo back in 2008, and we did call out roundabouts as a proven safety countermeasure and specifically encouraged agencies to look at rural and ramp interchange terminals. So again, we're just going to be doubling down on, or having an opportunity to double down on, some of these proven safety countermeasures. It really does accelerate the implementation in a very transparent way. You heard Millie talk about the restricted crossing U-turns, diverging diamond interchanges, as well as roundabouts and other U-turn type innovative intersections that we have in our toolbox. So it's just elevating the knowledge and the information about those, and then making sure that there's due consideration for those as we move through our project development process. It clearly ties directly, as you heard Mo talk about and Millie talk about, it ties directly to our goals, ending the streak, getting to zero in terms of fatalities and injuries. And it really is looking at ways to reduce those conflict points, to reduce speeds at intersections. And where we have a planned conflict point, that being an intersection itself, we're really taking a little bit deeper look at how we can put the best alternative forward based on context and based on the goals that we have, not only as communities, and that's getting people home safely, but as our agencies ourselves. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Amanda, and look forward to seeing many of you in person in the coming months as we roll out the workshops.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Hillary. Now we've got Jason Pike, our Design Division Director, to give an overview of the ICE memo. You ready, Jason?
I am. Everyone hear me and see me all right? Excellent. Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Free Slurpee Day. I'm going to run through the memo that was recently issued by our chief engineer. I want to make sure that everyone understands all the key components. Now, obviously, it's only 1 page long, so it's not going to tell you exactly how to do the whole process there, what the whole intersection control evaluation process is, but it does reference the new Traffic and Safety Analysis Procedures Manual, which we just published here back in June. Chapters 10 and 11 explain the process in detail. Chapter 10 is for intersection control evaluation, and Chapter 11 is interchange control evaluation. So it is the same process in both chapters, just different types of intersections. The next section of the manual talks about section 10.2.2 of the TxDOT manual, which is what I refer to and what the abbreviation for that Traffic and Safety Analysis Procedures Manual. So if you hear me say TxDOT, that's what I'm referring to. But that does give specifics on when to apply the ICE process as well. And Amanda's going to cover a little bit more in detail later on the when, but the overall intent is, whenever you're reconstructing or significantly changing an intersection, that could include your corridor projects when you're adding through lanes. But anytime you have any of those projects where you're affecting an intersection or corridor projects where you're adding through lanes, that's when you should be doing the ICE process for each intersection. So, we don't want to just evaluate the one trouble spot because all intersections have conflict points, as we mentioned. So again, we should be performing that ICE process on each intersection. And it should be done as early as possible in the planning or preliminary engineering stages as well. let's see the next section here. So, obviously any analysis is going to produce trade-offs between alternatives. And I do want to emphasize that this ICE process, I know we've talked a lot about safety here today, but the great thing about this intersection control evaluation process is it takes all, it includes operations and other impacts. It's not just a safety evaluation. So when we talk about giving you a process to produce viable intersection types, it's going to take all of those other factors into account as well. Again, as we've heard a few times this morning, in a transparent and defensible way. So you'll have some actual data to back up your viable selections there. Now, again, every project is a safety project, so we do want to emphasize here that safety first. So among those viable intersection types, the chosen control should be the one with the highest expected safety performance. So that's kind of the goal here, but I did want to at least emphasize here that it's not just a safety review, it's safety analysis, but this is also going to tell you which one of those underutilized intersection types will actually perform from an operational standpoint as well. So it is good tools for those folks who don't have as much experience with R-cuts or DDIs or any of those other intersection types. It'll be able to tell you very quickly which ones will perform. And then again, I do want to emphasize, I can't say it enough, every project is a safety project. So once you've got those viable intersection types, be choosing the one with the highest safety performance. Let's see the next section here. The memo talks about how the ICE process is in alignment with several major TxDOT policies and commitments. And I won't go through all of those, but we do have a nice slide here that does go through several of them. For example, the Strategic Highway Safety Plan has intersections as an emphasis area and a strategy specific to ICE as well. Several other TxDOT planning documents prioritize safety along with the strategic plan goals of delivering the right projects and optimizing system performance. As previously noted, ICE is about producing a transparent and defensible decision for the best intersection option. And then obviously the roadway design manual will discuss intersection control evaluation as well. And the upcoming roadway design manual update is going to have an entire chapter devoted to all the alternative intersection types. All right, so the timeline here, the intent of this timeline of implementation is to catch projects early in planning and preliminary engineering stages. So I'm just going to kind of read this right off the screen. There was a lot of work that went into crafting this and a lot of feedback from districts and otherwise. So I'm just going to read it right off the screen to make sure I don't screw it up. But the timeline is to implement this process on all projects in preliminary or schematic design immediately, where the following project stages have not or will not be completed prior to June 30th, 2025. And that is approved right-of-way footprint for schematic projects, or approved 30% plans for non-schematic projects. So a quick note, I know not all districts necessarily have an approved right-of-way stage, but again, it's intended to be for when you guys are kind of locked down on your right-of-way. That's when we expect you to be performing that. So. All right, and finally, design divisions available to support the implementation. We want you to be successful in implementing this. So we will be providing training and many other resources, which again, Amanda will cover here shortly. But again, the real reason we're doing this here is, as Mo led it off with very well, that and I think has been mentioned a couple other times by Millie and Hillary, but 32% of our fatalities are intersection related. I know a lot of those other things, maybe more behavioral type situations with seatbelt speeding and distracted driving. So this intersection is something that we can actually take a big bite out of that apple. We can actually make an impact on. And that's why this is such an important thing. So that's basically the high level thing of the memo. And I'll turn it back over to Amanda to talk through some of those resources and details.
All right, thank you, Jason, for walking us through that. So as he said, I'm going to go over some more details in each of those sections and then talk about trainings and resources. So the TSAP, as Jason mentioned, the Traffic and Safety Analysis Procedures Manual, it was issued June 20th, 2024, and it is available online on our manual site. And chapters 10 and 11 and the corresponding appendices, K and L, give tools, steps, resources, and examples for ICE. Now, overall, the purpose and content for the TSAP is to support all the project development stages and provide guidance specifically for scoping, conducting, and reporting traffic and safety analyses. Now, to talk a little bit more about what's in chapters 10 and 11, it's going to give context, which includes workflow, applicability, and the different intersection types for ICE, and then it's going to outline a process. The process is a two-stage process. Now, stage one is high level. The level of effort is anticipated to be minutes or hours and not a major effort. Stage one looks at operations and safety. Operations more for viability. Will it even work? And then of your viable types, taking a ranking look at safety. The primary tool that the TSAP recommends for operations is CapEx, and for safety is SPICE. Now, please note that each of these tools have limitations in that they are planning level. In one of the appendices, Appendix L, I believe, there's a reference to a CapEx similar tool that does operations for interchanges. So it includes a few more options than the original CapEx tool, which has mostly intersections. So we provide all those tools, narratives on each, but using these tools, CapEx and SPICE, are very, very quick. I did it myself. You put in your ADTs or your turning movements, and you get your results. For operations, it's looking at volume to capacity ratio. For safety, it's using predictive crash analysis, and it produces the predicted crashes, both fatal and injury, and all types of crashes for each of your intersection options. So you can quickly see which type of intersection would produce potentially the most fatal crashes, and look closely. Some intersections, like a multi-lane roundabout, it might show projected total crashes a little bit higher than others, but the fatal and serious injury crashes might be a lot lower. And that ties back to that statement in the memo of all viable intersection types to choose the highest expected safety performance for fatal and serious injury crashes, because saving lives for Vision Zero is really our primary goal. So with that, if your stage one produces a very clear answer, this is our safest option, this is going to work operationally, this is what we want to go with your stage one. Stage one provides documentation of your choice right from the get-go. Oftentimes, though, your stage one is going to produce maybe a short list of options, maybe 2, 3, maybe even 4 options that you're debating about. And that's when you want to do a stage two analysis. Stage two is as needed for detailed analysis. You can do more detailed analysis on operations with either microsimulation or just more detailed operations analysis. You can do more detailed safety analysis. And then you can start looking at your costs. Cost differences can make an impact, and then impacts in general. Impacts would be environmental impacts, utility impacts. Some of these intersection types, the footprints are different than what we're used to. And so stage two is where you look at all of that together to help take that narrowed list and really give you that transparent, documented choice for what will be the best intersection all around. And again, as we mentioned, chapter 11 has the same exact process, but just has more information on all the interchange types. All right, now one of the questions that we get a lot is about the relationship of the ICE process to the Safer by Design scoring tool and our safety scoring tools in general. So we had the Urban Intersection Safety Scoring Tool Excel-based last year, and we had the Urban Corridor tool, and they've now been merged into the Safer by Design scoring tool in a web-based format. That said, they're not the same thing. ICE is not interchangeable with the Safer by Design scoring tool. But we really want to be clear here. The ICE process does not supersede, change, or impact the requirements of the Safer by Design scoring tool. The scoring tool should be used immediately after the ICE is complete and before the project advances into detailed design to provide maximum flexibility for incorporating safer design elements. So it's a process. So we start with our ICE process. The ICE process considers operations, safety, costs, and impacts. It's a bigger picture. And it's the same thing with a safety analysis within ICE. A safety analysis within ICE is looking intersection level. So when you're using CMFs or SPFs, your crash modification factors for predictive crash analysis, you're looking at an intersection level to be able to compare the different intersection types. Because of that, the safety analysis in the ICE process takes crash severity into account. Like we mentioned, the SPICE tool can separate fatal and injury crashes from total crashes. So the outcome of that is your preferred intersection type. Then immediately after that, when you're still very early in project design, you take that preferred intersection type and put it into the Safer by Design scoring tool. Now, the scoring tool considers safety only, and it's at a design element level. So it's looking at individual design element pieces of each intersection, like turn lanes and shoulder widths, etc. And so it's a more micro look at your intersection. Because of that, right now, the safety scoring tool does not currently take crash severity into account. We're looking at ways to merge that in. We don't have that capability yet. So the outcome after your Safer by Design scoring tool, you've got your chosen intersection type, and now you've maximized the safety of your chosen design. All right, so section 10.2.2 of the TSAP, Jason mentioned this. I've got a zoom in of, this is the actual text of the TSAP. On the left, I've underlined in green where an ICE is required, and on the right in red, I have outlined where it would not be required. So at a high level, again, it's on a state route, but digging a little bit more in, if you're using state or federal funding on your project, if we're getting involved with this project, then you really need to be doing an ICE. Now, ICE does not need to be completed in certain scenarios. Referring back to what Jason said, the intent here is when you're reconstructing, you're doing major changes to an intersection. So if you're not doing major changes, you're not, reconstructing it, that's that first bullet point here. And so if you are doing a corridor widening project and you're wiping everything out for the whole corridor, that would definitely need ICE. But if you're not increasing the vehicular footprint, so you're doing improvements such as just sidewalk improvements, maybe signal permit revisions, or minor turn lane adjustments, those don't constitute, reconstructing and redoing an intersection. And so you wouldn't need to do an ICE. Now, I wrote minor turn lane adjustments there because if you're, again, reconstructing your whole intersection to change your whole turn lane alignment, then that would probably be a great opportunity to complete an ICE. Resurfacing is another one. If you're resurfacing through an intersection, that would not trigger an ICE. Another one would be right in, right out. Oftentimes on our frontage roads, we have local roads that come in, they're right in, right out, or if we've got access management or medians. These alternative intersections we've been talking about, their safety improvements is really from reducing severe conflict points, and that's a lot of those is left turns. And so if you've got right in, right outs along your whole corridor, you don't need to do an ICE for every single one. That said, if you've got a crash problem at a right in, right out roadway, this process could provide you an opportunity to look at some options for fixing that. And lastly, where routine traffic signal timing and equipment maintenance is happening, that would not trigger an ICE either. So reporting, what do you do with an ICE once you have it? The ICE is primarily at the district level, but we have two ways that we would look at it at the division level. So we're working on updates to Form 1002 that will likely come out this summer, and the DSR will be updated and will likely come out at the same time as the RDM this fall. With 1002, the section in 1002 will look very similar to the VE study section, and it basically asks three questions. Is an ICE required? Yes or no? If it is required, has it been completed? Yes or no? And if it's been completed, attach ICE documentation to this form. And so when you submit the 1002 to Design Division, we would expect to see the ICE documentation with it. The DSR, we're looking at adding a matrix that could show us location and control type. I've provided an example here from an ICE report. I don't know if it would exactly look like this, but this is a good example of what an ICE report for a corridor could have as like a summary. It provides the different intersections you're looking at, existing and proposed control types, and your selection. It's a really great snapshot of summarizing multiple intersections. The DSR, we're looking to also add a space for notes and justification. Now, one big question we get a lot is, how is Design Division going to be reviewing these? And it's going to be a high-level review. We will get the documentation, and we're really just checking to see that you're completing ICE, that you're looking at your options, that you're, strongly considering safety. And really, we're only going to start talking with you if we're seeing something that looks amiss. Like Mo said, if you keep doing the same thing, we can't expect changes. So if we start seeing ICE reports and all you ever do is a traffic signal, I might call you up and have a conversation with you. But that's the level. the TSAP doesn't prescribe exactly how to write an ICE report. And so we don't have a checklist behind the scenes, making sure that you include all of these, exact specifications. So we're just looking to make sure that you're understanding the process, that you're looking at all of your options. All right, so upcoming trainings. We have 2 more webinars, 1-hour webinars. It's exactly the same presentation next Monday in the afternoon and next Wednesday in the morning. And after that, we're going to have ICE workshops. Now, these workshops are more in depth, and these workshops are geared towards the people on your team that are going to be making these choices, that are going to be making these evaluations, these analyses, planners, schematic engineers, typically, maybe traffic ops people, depending on how your district or how your firm is set up. And so those are the people that I think would benefit most from these workshops. They're going to be a day and a half when they're in person. It'll be an afternoon and then a full day on the second day. And there'll be examples to do for ICE. And so you'll get some hands-on practice. We're going to be in 4 locations and 1 virtual. In August, we'll be in Houston. Now, I do know August 27th, for our TxDOT folks on the call, that is a skeleton crew day. That's Lyndon B. Johnson's birthday. And so just know that if you do work on that day, if you do go to the training, skeleton crew rules apply. You would get comp time. I ask that you figure that out with your supervisor. We just had a very tight calendar. I don't know if you guys know this, but August, September, October is conference season. So we kind of had to wedge these in. So forgive me for taking up your time on Lyndon B. Johnson's birthday. We'll give him a shout out at the workshop. In September, we'll be at the Lubbock district on the 18th and 19th. October will be our virtual. That's only going to be 1 day, so it's going to be a little bit more compressed. Obviously, with virtual, there will still be some exercises. It won't be exactly the same. I do think the greatest benefit is always in person if you can make it to one of these. But we will do that virtual in October. In November, we'll be at Stastny, November 6th and 7th. Just so you know, that is election week, but it's the day after election. So hopefully we avoid the craziness of election day. Then we'll be in Waco on the 19th and 20th. That is the week before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's a little bit late this year. After that, we are building a curriculum right now that will go into PeopleSoft, so you can sign up for classes for ICE and a lot of roundabout stuff. Roundabouts are kind of the trickiest intersection there. There's a lot of nuance to designing them. And so we're building a portfolio of classes for ICE and roundabouts right now. Our goal is to have a couple of instructor-led classes for planners and designers specifically, launched by the end of the year. So keep an eye out for that. Next year, we should have our full portfolio launched. Now, in the meantime, say you've got limited ability to get to these workshops, or you need more detail, we can do on-demand district-specific training. We've got subject matter experts on contract that we can send. We've already had some successful meetings and trainings. We did a great roundabout crash course in Waco District. We're working with a handful of engineers in Lubbock on ICE and roundabout design. So please, if you are looking for something a little bit more to tide you over until we get our formal classes, please let us know. Additional resources, we have a website on our TxDOT.gov. The link is at the bottom. Darren, if you haven't already, or if somebody could put that link into the chat, that would be great. It's pretty easy to find. It's in About and Programs under Innovative Transportation. Our main page gives an overview of what are the different innovative intersection types, and then it's got additional resources. We also have a database. We've had some people ask about this. On the main page, there's a link to a dashboard database of all innovative intersections across Texas. It's a really great resource. I believe we're at around 800 to 850 innovative intersections across Texas, and you can see these on a map and get information on every single one. Now there's a link to a subsite specific to ICE, and you can see that screenshot on the right there. Considerations for ICE, what we talked about with reporting and documentation, and it's got the list of trainings. Now, just this morning it went live. There is a link under the Learn More About ICE section where you can fill out a form if you would like to attend the workshops. So anybody, TxDOT, internal or external, if you want to attend the workshop, please click on that link on the TxDOT website. You can email me as well, but you fill out the form, it will notify us that you are interested. If you are TxDOT, we will put you into the class immediately until we fill out the capacity. And if we have capacity within a week or 2 of the training occurring, we will then open it up to external. So if you are an external person on the call and you'd like to attend this workshop, fill out the form. we will reach out to you to add you to the wait list. As Jason mentioned earlier, we are here to help. We really want this to be a success. We're very driven to improve our intersections, and we want to make sure that each intersection is a success as well. So we have the capabilities and the resources right now to help you. We want to be a resource for you. We can provide coaching, support, review. If you're listening to all this, making your head spin, you're not sure where to start, give us a call. We can talk with you. If you're a consultant, or if you are getting a design from a consultant and you want a second set of eyes on it, we can do a peer review. In particular, what we really like about peer reviews is we don't just redline it and send it back. We really encourage having a meeting, talking through comments, because we see those as educational opportunities so that each time we get a design, it's better. We can do concept sketches. We know roundabouts, like I said, are pretty tricky to get them right. And so if you are considering a roundabout but aren't sure how to draw it or where to start, let us know. We can do the first concept sketch for you. We can work with you to draw it so that you're learning how to do them, but we can provide those. If you need a high-level sketch to determine your footprint, we can help with that as well. We can send our subject matter experts to public involvement meetings as best our schedule allows. We can provide resources for public involvement. I know public involvement is really a hot topic for roundabouts in particular, and we've got a lot of resources for roundabout public involvement in particular, and we would love to share them with you. And more. We already talked about the district-specific training upon request. We have an email address, innovative.intersections@TxDOT.gov, for support requests or for questions. With that, that concludes the webinar, the content for presenting, but we will be open for questions. So again, I believe there's probably already questions in the chat, or if you want to ask a verbal question, feel free to raise your hand. Darren will enable your mic to do that. And with that, Darren, I'll hand it off to you to tell us who's up.
All right. So we have some questions in the chat. Metro districts are represented: San Antonio, Houston, and Austin, or Dallas. The first question is from Chip in San Antonio. Will ICE be required for federally funded off-system local government projects?
Good question. I believe so. Yes, that is intended when it's federally funded. We are taking a look at it and we are reviewing it. And so I believe the answer would be yes. Jason, any qualifications on that you might add?
Yeah, we might have to get together with the local government group, John Jameson and those folks, to make sure we can get that on their checklist. So it might have to be a temporary, not required, but strongly recommended until we can get that formally included in all their checklists.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And Milad, you had your hand up a while ago, but you have a chat in the question, so I'll go ahead and ask it. ICE is a similar process as safety tool evaluation process?
Are you talking about, I don't know if you want to allow him to use his mic.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the Safer by Design scoring tool or the safety scoring tools?
Milad, your mic is now enabled, so.
Yes. Good morning. Yes, we recently start doing using the safety tool to evaluate the intersections, which is pretty new, at least to myself. And yes, my question is that they are similar or they are different?
They are different. So this is, when we were talking about the scoring tool, this is where they're related. So the ICE process comes first because it's at the intersection level, comparing intersection types. When you have a preferred intersection type, you use the Safer by Design scoring tool to optimize the safety of that chosen design. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, awesome.
And thank you for raising your hand because it moves you to the top
Whoop,
and enables me to unmute you. So Doreen with Dallas has two great questions. Are there any project examples that the design division or FHWA could provide as a resource?
Yes, yep. So in the appendix of the TSAP, we have one example of a stage 1. Stage 2, an example of a report was really too big to tack into the whole TSAP, but we can get you examples of reports if you'd like. Feel free to send me an email and we'll get that. That is something we'd ultimately like to get up. We're working on building a resource library on our website. And so we have some of these behind the scenes, but we haven't posted them. So until we get that live, feel free to reach out to me and I can get you some examples.
Awesome. And Doreen has another question. Are those trainings in the fall available to consultants too, or is it only TxDOT?
Noreen, I swear you must have had my notes and I missed that bit. That's a good part. So yes, that is available to consultants, but we are prioritizing TxDOT first. So we basically, if you are with TxDOT and you fill out that form, we'll put you on the list to attend the workshop. If we have capacity, I really anticipate having capacity in Houston because it's our biggest venue, their auditorium there. I'm very grateful to Houston District for allowing us the use of their auditorium. I think it can seat between 80 and 100 people. So I anticipate probably 2 weeks before the Houston ICE workshop, I will look at our wait list of consultants and reach out to them. And if there's capacity, get them signed up. So yes, open, but on a wait list basis. Does that answer your question? I think so.
Awesome. Thank you, Doreen, for those questions. Please feel free to send more. Oh, we have another one just came in. When will the workshop be available for the Dallas district? That's from Nelson.
So we don't have a workshop in Dallas district. So the closest one is probably going to be the Waco one. So we had a tough time picking locations, and we could only get 4 in before the end of the year. So Houston, Lubbock, Austin, Stastny, and Waco. So for Dallas folks, I highly recommend the Stastny or Waco ones, whichever is easiest for you to travel to.
Awesome. We have a question from Ragab in the design division. Is there any traffic level at intersections that showed roundabouts to be safer control? I assume they are low traffic volumes. Will ICE be limited to these traffic conditions?
Great question. You might have opened a can of worms. I love roundabouts. I will try to keep this answer short. Roundabouts work at almost all traffic levels, probably a lot higher than you're thinking. Roundabouts aren't just for low traffic volumes. The threshold for roundabouts operationally is about 40 to 50,000 ADT. So they're applicable for a lot of intersections operationally. They are safer at all levels. So even if you have a roundabout that the peak hour is saturated, a roundabout at a level of service F is still going to be safer than a traffic signal at a level of service F. And so that's where this ICE process is beautiful, because you get the opportunity to compare each of those and what you are willing to live with. One thing we like to say in the roundabout community is, are you willing to live with congestion for 1 hour a day for safety 24 hours a day? So make sure you look critically at that. But again, that threshold for roundabouts is about 40 to 50,000 ADT. And there are ways to get additional capacity out of it. You can, if you have bypass, the opportunity to do bypasses, you can up that ADT even more. All right.
Awesome. Another follow-up from Doreen. She is asking some great questions right there. Will there be a limit for the virtual session in October?
Yes, probably. We haven't set the limit yet because we're still exploring what platform we're going to use to do that. But just for the sake of being able to have good exercises, I do think we will have to set a limit. It will probably be a little bit higher than our in-person ones based on room setting, but there will be a limit. So if you want that virtual one, sign up sooner rather than later.
Yeah. We've been handling about 171 to 175 on this one. Pretty great. So yeah, I can see a pretty high limit for that.
Yep.
All right, I've got a question from Kirk in the Childress District. All right, a rural district. Is the Safer by Design tool you mentioned different from the safety scoring tool that we already do for all projects?
No, that's the same one. So Jason, can you talk about the naming that we went through with that?
Yes, no, it's the same tool. We'd always kind of just internal to the design division sort of referred to it as a Safer by Design as we were developing it, but we just kind of always referred to it as the safety scoring tool externally. And we kind of liked the name Safer by Design. So you'll just hear us start referring to that publicly more often than you have in the past. But same tool, same thing. It's just, you might hear it called Safer by Design or Safer by Design safety scoring tools, but one and the same.
Excellent. All right, we have a question from Daniel Diaz in the Dallas district. Could you explain why we are doing this at intersections again? I'm assuming this is for the 32% fatalities at intersections. Would this reduce the accidents, crashes, I'll say?
Yes.
Can't say
Yes.
accident.
Yes. A chorus of yeses.
Amanda, if I can just real quick, like, yeah, again, we're kind of focusing on the intersections because again, we have tools in our toolbox that can address the fatality and serious injuries that we're seeing at intersections. We have tools in our toolbox, and those tools have been underutilized for many years, all these innovative intersection types. And part of that is because, just to be perfectly honest, we don't always know when they're best applied. And so that's what this process does, is it gives us tools and a process to go through to identify which of these underutilized tools might be a better solution than some of the things just going straight to signal by default like we've done in the past. So again, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. And so, yes, that's the whole point of the process, is targeting intersections, because again, there's a big number of our fatalities and serious injuries happen there. And so that's the goal, is to reduce the number of crashes and serious injuries and fatalities at intersections.
All right, thank you. We have a great question from Charles Tapp, and I am going to cheat here to make sure that I get their division name right. They are the Strategic Initiatives and Innovations Division, STR. Charles has a question. Do you have public involvement materials supporting alternative intersections other than the safety scoring tool? That's a good question.
Yes, we do. We are working on a toolbox where we can pull it all together. Right now, we're responding more to requests as needed. One example, we went up to Tyler District. They've got a roundabout they're proposing, and we helped them print out the roundabout on a sheet of vinyl to a scale that we had middle model cars for. So at like a public meeting, that's a really great tool for people to get a feel for the roundabout, to engage them, and to help answer questions. We're also working on fact sheets and flyers for each of the type of intersections: roundabouts, arcas, diverging diamonds. So you've got kind of like 1-pagers or 2-pagers on each of those. So yes, we're collecting a lot of stuff that we have, and we're working through draft modes. But if you reach out to us with whatever you're working on, we can see what we can pull together for you.
Awesome. And we have a great question from Jeffrey Otto in the design division. Will the information/results be put in TxDOT Connect?
That's my goal ultimately. We'd like to have something in there. We're still working on exactly what that would look like and how we want the reporting to work behind the scenes. But yes, ultimately we would like to get that up there.
All right. Our next question is from Rawetz in Beaumont. Rawetz asks, would ICE be required for non-construction intersections such as pedestrian crossing projects?
I don't think so. We'd have to look at the scope, but if you're not reconstructing the intersection, you're just adding, pedestrian type improvements on the outskirts or in spot improvements, then probably not. I always say not required, but strongly encouraged. If you have an opportunity to look at your intersection control, any type of project can give you an opening to look at that. So if you have an opportunity to check, sometimes even if it's outside the scope of the project, but you've got a stage 1 report that says, hey, this project is improving this aspect of the intersection, but in the future, it would be best to do something else. If you ever get a corridor project in the future, you've already got the report that helps support what you need to do. So probably not required, but always encouraged.
Okay. Let me check for any raised hands. Please raise your hand if you'd like to come off mute and speak. And thanks to Jeff Shaw with the FHWA for responding to a visually impaired pedestrians question. Jeff says, actually, for visually impaired pedestrians, it's a matter of accessibility, not safety. Accessibility is the performance metric that speaks to how usable a facility is to a given user. The good news is we know what treatments need to be added to crossings at roundabouts to make them accessible. To clarify, though, it is not a matter of safety. So
I will add to that a little bit. So the newest PROAG for the accessibility guidelines, I believe it's very near to fully adopted, but we're already abiding by it. The real audible issue for visually impaired pedestrians at roundabouts comes from multi-lane roundabouts because of the 2 lanes that you have to cross at the same time. And so the PROAG says, and we agree, that for multi-lane roundabouts to do an enhanced crosswalk treatment, those include rectangular rapid flashing beacons or a raised crosswalk to help further alert the driver to pedestrians. I will say overall, your chances of surviving a collision as a pedestrian are much higher at a roundabout than at a traffic signal. So overall, roundabouts still have a higher safety record because of that. Thank you for adding. Oh yeah, thank you, Hillary, for adding the access board. There it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's also added some roundabout resource from FHWA as well. So thank you so much for that. Very good. Thank you. Thank y'all for taking care of some of that behind the scenes in the chat. All right, any hands? We still have about 10 minutes, so
Great questions, everybody. Thank you.
they're really vying to make this the recorded one that we store online. All right, we've got Beethoven Garcia in the FAR district, TCP and maintenance for one-lane roundabout seems to be a challenge. Do we have examples or recommendations on these areas?
Yes, we do. Right now, they're more on an as-provided basis. It is on our list to pull together go-bys for traffic control. Phasing staging can be tricky for one-lane roundabouts. It totally depends on your existing situation, your width of pavement. One thing we're also looking into, we just had a great meeting with the STR division earlier this week, is looking more into modular or temporary roundabouts. So that also changes the staging and phasing. Maintenance, it depends on your roundabout, what you have for truck aprons. I think most of our, especially on-system single-lane roundabouts, will probably have pretty good truck aprons to allow for big trucks, oversized, overweight. Those truck aprons do provide good spots for maintenance vehicles. So again, depending on your situation, reach out to us and we can pull together some go-bys for you if you'd like. Good stuff,
Awesome.
guys.
Yeah, very good. That's all we have for now. Please feel free to use the chat, raise your hand. We would love to get your questions.
Yep, we want to hear them. We want to hear them. If you've got any concerns or questions that you haven't voiced yet, we'd love to hear them.
Okay, we have a hand up. I'm gonna allow your mic, Michael Stewart. Michael Stewart with the Waco district. You should be live.
You'll still have to unmute yourself. Darren just
Yeah,
enables the mic.
yeah. And feel free to come on camera. I've enabled your camera as well. Michael?
Okay.
There you go.
You can probably
We
hear
got
now.
you loud and
Okay.
clear.
Live and in person. Perfect. Hey, thank you very much for this. I just had a brief question on kind of some of the feedback, as this rolls out. I'm sure you've seen probably within Texas for sure, and maybe nationally, some are early adopters of new kind of, new interchanges and intersection ideas, and some states and districts might be late adopters. So as far as feedback, when certain kind of improvements are done, I guess who's the custodian of, we had this goal to kind of reduce, say fatal and serious accidents or crashes by this amount, and we achieved it or we didn't achieve it. I guess how is that, you could say the maintenance of sort of the data, did it meet objective or not? And so that, it could become something where, plans could then propagate to, to make those improvements in other areas, or consequently we could reevaluate, okay, no, this isn't the way to go. It looks like this way, has been successful. And I'm not specifically talking about roundabouts, but, I could think, when I, visit the West and the East, I see, different kind of intersection designs, diverging diamonds and, displaced lefts and whatnot. And I'm not saying that we need to adopt every intersection, but how is the feedback on, what is developed calibrated so we could know that it more or less achieved the reduction of kind of crash incidents that we're seeking. That's all.
I can answer this one if you want. Jason?
Go right ahead.
Okay. I realize I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Amanda Austin, and I'm with the Design Division, and my role in Design Division is the Roundabout and Alternative Intersection Design Lead. So that's actually my job. You said who would be the stewards? That would be me and our program and our group. We're working on how to tabulate that. TxDOT Connect is one way where we have the database of on-the-ground intersections, but we don't right now have tracking for innovative intersections that are under development, and we want to get that. If we can track them, then we can keep an eye on them. That said, we've already actually had across the state different efforts at evaluating, like post-evaluation, like how intersections are doing after they've been built. Thank you to San Antonio District. Clayton Rip sent me some before and after case studies of their innovative intersections. I know El Paso has done a few, and they currently have a contract to do some more after looks, after it's been installed, take a hard look at it and see what's working and what's not working. And so it's under my purview. We're working on different ways. Right now, we're kind of taking these isolated reports as they come in. Now, that is combined with nationwide knowledge. Like pretty much all of these intersections have research associated with them. Actually, roundabouts have some of the most robust research because they've been around the longest, but we can tap into national research for how they've been doing on the ground. But we are working on a way here in Texas to look at what we've installed and what we can do for lessons learned with those. So to answer your question, we're the steward. We're working on how to do that statewide, but we have isolated hotspots where we already have feedback. Does that answer your question, Michael?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, we have another question from Ragab in the Design Division. Is there any idea of the relative weights expected to be used in ICE for operation, safety, cost, and impacts?
So that is a case-by-case basis. You want to go, Jason?
Yeah, I was going to say, we're not going to prescribe any weights on that because every project and every location is a little bit different. And so again, you're going to go through the process. Stage one is going to kind of give you your viable, or at least a quick operation and safety. And if you're viable, if your safest option there is like, hey, this works great, then you run with it. But obviously there's going to be a lot of locations where you're going to need to do a little bit deeper dive, with your environmental impacts, your right-of-way impacts, all of those types of things are going to play a role. And sometimes, some of those are going to need to be weighted higher. And that's going to be, up to the engineer and the districts to make that call. But we're not going to prescribe any weights on that. I would just say, I'll refer back to what the memo says is among all the viable options, the safest one regarding the reduction of fatalities and serious injuries should be chosen. But otherwise, again, there's too many factors in a project. I'm not going to prescribe weights. That's not the goal here.
Awesome. And thank you, Hillary, Hillary left a great statement full of beautiful acronyms. In the workshops, we will speak to accessibility for all users, pedestrian hybrid beacons, rectangular rapid flashing beacons, raised crosswalks, and a combination of some of the strategies. For instance, El Paso had an offset crossing with PHBs, and Austin had a raised crosswalk. Both have multi-lane roundabouts with some of these features. So yeah, those are great examples. Thank you so much, Hillary. All right.
Aaron, I think it's about noon.
We are. We have no questions and we have no raised hands, so we are right on schedule.
Right. Thank you, everybody, again. We appreciate it. With that, we're going to stop the recording and end the webinar. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.